Welcome everyone, the daily.dev event number 24. So I've been doing this for a whole year as a host already. And I'm super excited because we have amazing speakers today. Some of them I already know them, some of them still don't know them. And today we'll talk about a very important topic, which is soft skills, or human skills, you can call them. So before we start, let's make a super fast sound check and welcome everyone. So is everyone there?
Yes.
Hello.
Perfect. So I'm super excited because we are close to Christmas. I made all my Christmas gifts. I make the Christmas tree. So I just miss this event and then I'm done for this year. And super happy. Hey there, everyone. There you go. Okay, so let's start. And before we start, let me show super fast what we're about to talk about today. So the agenda is... sorry, let's do this like that. So we have Taylor first, which this I think that this title is already worth the just being here. So if you're here, don't leave now because I want to see what will happen here. And then we have this one. This is the last one by Julia. No, this is the wrong title. Sorry. And which is the title is just 1 second is. I forgot, Julia.
Yep. How to get a job as a developer with soft skill when tech skills are weak.
Perfect, nice. And the second one is Josefine, and we'll talk about imposter syndrome. So this is also an interesting topic. So let's start. And thank you so much for being here. Thank you. Hey, how is it going? Okay, so let me remove this. Let me remove Josephine and Julia, and we can start. Bye. See you soon. Okay, Taylor. So I already messed up a couple of things. So welcome. How are you? And please introduce yourself, and then we can start sharing your screen, and we can start with your presentation. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, for those of you who are tuning in, welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. I've been a big fan of Francesco for a very, very long time. So grateful to be sharing a screen with him, as they say. So for those of you, my name is Taylor Desseyn. I am believe it or not, a recruiter. So if you came this morning to hang out with a bunch of developers, I'm sorry. Surprise, I am a recruiter, but I will tell you this. I am very thrilled to be here. And we're going to talk about, so for the next 16 hours, no, I'm just kidding. For the next 30 minutes, we're going to talk about recruiters, how to work with us, especially when it comes to your job search. I think we are a untapped market, to be totally honest. And so hopefully at the end of this 25, 30 minutes that I have with you all this morning, you will all be like, wow, I need to probably reach out to recruiters more. Also, Francesco, I will tell you this, that is the coolest intro video thing I've ever seen. I want one made for me, so I'm going to hit you up. Whoever did that, I want that done. That was slick. So, but nice. Anyways, cool. So I can go ahead and dive in. We good?
Yes. Yes. When you want, you can share your screen. I can see your screen here, and I just want to say that I didn't make the video, just in case that you.
I love it. Well, the video's amazing. So good. All right, y'all. Well,
now you know that I make this sort of events just for listening to that intro. So that's the main goal.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Nice, Taylor. So really good luck. And if you want a longer Q&A at the end, just let me know. And the total time is about around 25-30 minutes. Okay.
Awesome.
Bye.
Perfect.
Bye-bye.
See you. All right, y'all. So basically, like I said, so recruiters are a untapped potential. And what I want to do today is I want to go over this and basically walk through working with recruiters, because it's incredibly important. So again, a little bit of background. I've been recruiting now for 11 years. 11 years. And 11 years is like dog years in the recruiting world. It exponentially ages you. And so all I'm sharing today, and I always want to say this, what I'm sharing today is very much just me. right? I am only one recruiter. There's a sea of us. I only see one side of the market, right? There's a big market out there. So everything I say today is just coming from my 2 cents. I don't think my way is the end all be all by any means, but I'm just trying to share with you my 11 years of recruiting experience working with over 5,000 engineers throughout my career. And hopefully you learned something today. So let's go ahead and dive in again. So these are some basic questions I get. And also we're going to talk about just general job search stuff too, but these are some basic questions. But I will say this. So I have my own podcast. You can check it out. Little self brag here. Guidance Counselor 2.0. And so I actually live stream every day. And so these are questions I get commonly, but also too, if you have any questions, please throw them up and I will address them throughout this session as well. So let's go ahead and get started. So this is actually one of my conference talks that I speak at in the US. Recruiters suck, use them. So we're going to go through some topics today about recruiters and the job search in general. So the first question, there are 2 types of recruiters, right? And a lot of people don't realize this. So 2 types of recruiters out there, and these are the main ones, are corporate and agency. All right. So say that again, corporate and agency. So I'm an agency recruiter. So an agency recruiter, think like Mad Men, the show. We work with a bunch of different companies, right? We consult with a bunch of different companies. A lot of people reach out to me. They're like, Taylor, what type of companies do you work with? And I say, yes. The reason why I say yes is because we work with all of them, right? All different industries, size, etc. Agency recruiters, and we'll get into this a little bit more. Agency recruiters are really your way to get a good idea of the market, right? So agency recruiters, there's agency recruiters all around the world, right? So these individuals have a good pulse on the market. So I don't know about you, but there's a lot of surveys out there right now, right? End of the year surveys. Dice.com does one. Dice.com is a huge tech job board, right? Indeed, Career Builder. They all send out these end of the year surveys. And to be totally honest with you, when it comes to these surveys, they're lagging indicators, right? What they're doing is they are looking in the rear of the year. So, but when it comes to your job search, you need to be looking forward, right? These surveys don't tell you what 2023 looks like, right? You know how you know what 2023 looks like? It looks like talking to recruiters like myself, because we're already talking to hiring managers about their 2023 hiring plans, right? And that's something you're not going to see in these surveys that are put out, right? So my suggestion is really partner with a handful of agency recruiters, either in your area or across the country, who you can constantly reach out to, like, hey, how's the market? Are you seeing any jobs that could be a fit for me? The other types of recruiters that are out there are corporate recruiters, right? So corporate recruiters, they're the type of recruiters that work directly at the company, right? I will tell you this, corporate recruiters, in my opinion, are the ones that usually give the recruiting world a better reputation, right? So what I mean by that is that so agency recruiters like myself, we unfortunately are not compensated until we place you in a job, right? So a lot of the industry and the negativity from the industry comes with agency recruiters. Why? Because we can't help you all the time. We just can't, right? And so I will tell you this, like, that's why you need to make friends with a few of us, because we all can't help you every single time. Now, the corporate recruiters, they work for the end client. They work for the company, right? And so when you work with a corporate recruiter, your experience is most likely going to be better, because they are not compensated purely off of, or mainly off of, placements, right? Their compensation structure is different. And so they can spend time with you. They can pour into you. They can help you when a lot of times agency recruiters can't. So if there's any questions on the 2 types of recruiters, throw them in the chat. I will answer them. But if not, we will continue to move on. So how to leverage a recruiter for your job search. So this is a fascinating question I get a ton of times. And so the easiest thing I can tell y'all when it comes to how to leverage a recruiter for your job search is you have to kiss a lot of frogs, right? And what I mean by that is you're going to have to talk to a bunch of recruiters to find a good recruiter, right? So what I would recommend is I would log on to LinkedIn. Okay. I would log on to LinkedIn and I would search the word recruiter. If you're in an IT position, I would type in the word technical recruiter in the search feature. And then I would type in the filters of your city or state or province or whatever, and press enter and see who pops up. Now, after that, you are going to have to message all of these people. Now, the biggest pushback I get is like, Taylor, you're telling me I need to message all of these people, and That's even before I start interviewing. Yes. And here is why. If you start with the recruiters first, we are going to help save you a ton of time. A ton of time. Here's why. The recruiters in your area, especially agency recruiters, we can tell you who's hiring, who's not hiring, which companies to stay away from, which companies are tragically bad right now, who are the hot startups, who are the companies you need to go to stay at for 10 to 15 years if that's your goal. We know all that information. We do. I promise you, we know, or the good ones know that information. So if you start your job search and the front end of your job search loaded with recruiters, you're going to save yourself so much time on the back end, right? So what I would do is I would message recruiters. Now, I have a little hint, a little trick, a little tip on how to sort through recruiters, because most likely if you search the word technical recruiter in your area, there are going to be hundreds, if not thousands of recruiters. So what I would do is I would sift through, and I would use this rule right here. You ready? The 2 and 2 rule. Let me say it again. The 2 and 2 rule. What is that? The 2 and 2 rule is a rule that I came up with based off our industry and what I've seen throughout my career. So most agency recruiters will bounce after about 2 years, just like a developer, because a lot of agencies, we pay very low base and very high commission plan. So the ones that aren't that good are going to want to move around to try to get a higher base salary. Now, that isn't always the case. Again, this is very general, right? The other two that you want to look for is they need to be in your city for at least 2 years, right? So the reason for that is because as a recruiter myself, when I was learning the Nashville area, which is where I'm from, it took me around 2 years to kind of get an idea of who's good and who's not when it comes to hiring. So if you look through these recruiters, again, what I would do is I would see, okay, first off, has this person stayed at this company for at least 2 years? And has this person been in my city for at least 2 years? And if that's the same, message them. Now, I will tell you this. When I first introduced this idea, most of my original team was very young in their career, under the 2 years, and I got a lot of heat from it, right? Again, these are just very general rules, but I will tell you this, look at their profile. If it's fun, if they're engaging on their profile, they're most likely going to be enjoyable to work with. A lot of recruiters really leverage LinkedIn, and the recruiters that really leverage LinkedIn, their profiles are usually a lot of fun. They're not stale, right? So I would start there. And here's the deal. When you talk to recruiters before you find a fit, always ask them to help you with something, right? We know how to write a resume. We know how to write a LinkedIn. We know what questions to ask during an interview. We know what makes a good interview, right? So ask us questions, right? A lot of people, a lot of junior devs, right? They message me, though, can you help me? And I'm like, no, I can't. I'm sorry. And they move on, right? If you're a junior dev and I tell you that, be like, okay, that's totally fine. Can you take a look at my profile real quick and just give me a quick suggestion? Because here's the deal. If you talk to enough recruiters, you're going to be able to actually handcraft your resume and your LinkedIn with a bunch of professionals who know what they're doing. The problem is none of y'all ask recruiters for help about your resume, about your LinkedIn. And then what happens is you talk to a lot of recruiters and then you get frustrated because no one can help you. Just ask for help, right? Make sure you ask. And so what I would do is I would go through that. And like, here's the deal. Let recruiters work for you, right? Let recruiters work for you. Recruiters are always looking out for you. But here's the deal. So I'm actually really big on this thing right here, right? When it comes to working with a recruiter, right? A lot of people just send me their resumes, right? They're like, hey, here's my resume. You need to try to talk to a recruiter because we need to get you into our ecosystem, right? For example, one gentleman, my team just got a placement for a senior developer today. This gentleman, he and I have been friends for a long time. And he and I have not put him through the paces of talking with a recruiter, making sure we get his requirements, what he's looking for, get his resume, yada, yada. The moment we do that, 3 weeks later, he has a job offer, right? The reason for that is just because you send your resume to a recruiter doesn't mean they're going to remember you. You need to talk to them because the way recruiters are metrics judged is to have calls with job seekers. If you just send us a resume, that doesn't count. And so we're just going to throw it in our email and you're never going to get visited again, right? If you send a recruiter a message and your resume, please ask them for a phone call because if they put you through the paces, quote unquote, you're more likely going to get engagement from that agency recruiter because you're finally in their system now. So yeah, any questions on how to leverage a recruiter, let me know. Again, I'll do a quick Q&A at the end of this, but I do want to get through these topics as well. All right, so next thing, my thoughts on counteroffers. So this is a general thing, and I really want to preach this, right? Thoughts on counteroffers, don't take a counteroffer. Now, I have people that come out of the word work when I talk about it. It's like, well, Taylor, I took a counteroffer and I'm still here after 15 years and it's very pleasant. Well, here's the deal. That doesn't always happen. And most of the time, it does not happen, right? In my career, I would say 90%, and this is very general, but I would say 90% of people who have taken counteroffers that I've gotten them a job usually crawl back to me after 6 months and goes, I made a terrible mistake. Can you please help me? Right. And it happens. And again, I'm not joking. It happens all the time. Listen, here are my thoughts around counteroffers. It's just like a toxic boyfriend or girlfriend or partner. If you have to threaten to leave that relationship for it to get better, you need to move on, and you do not need to take their sob story to keep you there. Right. I will tell you this. I have had a time where one of my ex-girlfriends tried to get me back by sobbing, and I said no. And I said no. You got to move on. Here's a great question right here from Tabiloba. What's the best platform to connect with and properly relate to recruiters? Great question. LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the best. LinkedIn's the easiest. There are a lot of recruiters on Twitter, but if you actually go to my podcast, Guidance Counselor 2.0, you will really need. I lost my train of thought. Go to my podcast, Guidance Counselor 2.0. I actually have tactics on how to use Twitter and how to use LinkedIn to find recruiters, but LinkedIn is the platform that I would choose. Okay, so back to counteroffers. Don't take them. Just don't take them. Right? Again, why would you take an offer that you? And again, I've had some counteroffers. I'm not kidding. I had a counteroffer last year of a candidate. A total compensation counteroffer of $75,000. So here's what I told the candidate. Why in the heck was that company holding out $75,000 on you? Why? Right? Move on. I know it's good money, right? But here's the deal. There's a reason why you're leaving. There is a reason why they threw the bucket at you, and there's a reason why you didn't get the bucket of money to begin with. So you need to move on. All right, moving on. How to actually network in today's virtual world. Listen, so this is a topic that I can talk about specifically for the next 2 hours. And so I'm going to try to go through this because we really have around 12 minutes or so left. How to actually network in today's virtual world. Social media. It really is. It's social media. It's Slacks. It's Discords. It's Twitter. It's LinkedIn. It's Instagram. Not kidding you. Today, right? Today. So I do a daily vlog. I do a daily vlog because I think I want to show you that, like, listen, I'm a dad. I'm a husband. I'm a recruiter. I want to invite you into my life. And today I had a senior dev. I posted the TikTok on Twitter. Follow me at Desseyn. And this developer messaged me and goes, I love your daily vlogs. I'm actually looking for a job. Here's my resume. And it was on social media, right? So again, in my opinion, social media is the unlock when it comes to networking, because here's why it's so important. When you go to a meetup in your hometown or a networking event, you typically only get a handful of contacts, right? Typically, when you go to a meetup, you typically go with your friend and you sit with that friend, and you don't want to meet other people because you're shy. And I get it. So am I. I'm a huge introvert, right? And the thing is you leave the meetup and you meet like 3 people, maybe, and you probably don't even remember their names, because let's be honest, all of us are terrible at remembering names because we don't pay attention, right? And so all that being said, when you are on LinkedIn or on Twitter or on whatever, your reach is so much greater. I could go on LinkedIn right now and comment and like on 30 to 50 people's profiles. That, if I did the math on that, you would have to go to around 10 to 20 meetups to reach that number. Or you could sit at home in your desk chair reaching 50 plus people, right? I want to give a shout out to Francesco. right? He knows so many people. Why? He is always on Twitter. He's always engaging, right? He's always liking. He's always commenting, right? I see him, a fellow introvert here. Same, right? I work so much better in the confines of my own home, right? And the thing is what Francesco can do, what I can do, is we can engage with people all day on Twitter or all day on LinkedIn. And you know what that does? It scales our reach. Because here's the deal. When it comes to the job search, let me bring this back to the job search. You're probably like, this guy's rambling. I don't know how this comes into play. In my opinion, loose numbers here, 75% of the job search, 75% of the job search is around timing. Most of the time when you get rejected, it's not because of you. It's because of budget cuts. It's because of personnel issues, headcount movement. There's a slew of reasons why you didn't get the job. It's most likely not you. Now, there's a lot of times where you bomb an interview, it happens, it's fine, move on. But here's why networking is so important. Because let's say Francesco and I are working together, and Francesco's looking for a role, right? He DMs me, right? We give him an interview, and he bombs out, right? Sorry, Francesco, you didn't get the job. But let's say Francesco, so let's say I post a tweet 3 months from now, I'll be like, hey, I'm looking for this type of developer. Francesco's like, oh, actually, that role's even a better fit for me. He pings me and goes, hey, Taylor, I'd love to be a fit for this role. I'll be like, great, let's try it again. Here's the deal. If Francesco was not on social media, he was not on LinkedIn, he was not on Twitter, and he did not see that tweet from me, he would have missed out on his dream job, right? And so all that being said, you really, really need to be on social, liking, engaging, and commenting, right? There's 3 ways to use social media to network. There's creating your own content, right? Prolific content creator, Francesco, right? He's always out there producing content. You always see him. He's always in front of you. If you don't want to be a content creator, and I get it, you don't have to. Second thing is liking and commenting, right? Liking and commenting is like a handshake in today's. I don't know how to do a handshake with myself, right? Liking and commenting is literally handshaking. When you go up to somebody at a meetup and goes, hey, my name's Taylor. What's your name? Hey, my name's Kevin. What do you do? I'm a software developer at so-and-so company. Great. It's nice to meet you. And you walk away. That's the exact same thing as commenting and liking on someone's status in today's world. The final way to leverage social media to find your dream job and to network is through the DMs, right? If you're like, Taylor, I really don't want to comment network. I don't really want to post content. That's fine. Slide into people's DMs. Right? Honestly, if I were you and there's people on this chat that you want to network with, I'd DM them immediately. Hey, I saw you on the daily.dev today. Would love to connect. Right? So again, engaging, networking, it's so freaking important. All right, moving on. Let's see here. How to build community. All right, listen. This is huge, right? This is another one of my conference talks, and I'm trying to cram all this stuff in like 30 minutes. Listen, community is so important. It's so important. Most of your jobs throughout your career are going to come from your network, right? They just are. It just is. It's going to come from your phone contacts. It's going to come from your LinkedIn contacts. It's going to come from your Twitter contacts. But there's a lot of y'all sitting on the sideline right now that are really passionate about something, but aren't doing anything with it. So for example, right, I've become an F1 fan, right? Drive to Survive that hit Netflix in the States. I'm obsessed. Right? I barely know how to turn on a car. I've never watched racing in my entire life. Quite honestly, I don't really like motorsports, but I'm obsessed with F1, right? So what I want to do is I want to do a breakfast because most F1 races are in the morning. I want to do a breakfast with tech people at my house where we just watch F1 and hang out, right? Another one. I love wine, right? Specifically anything from Austria, right? Austrian makes the best wines. So that being said, I want to create a wine club where we invite 5 people. You come over, drink wine. We drink wine together and share our notes, and we go home. Right? I play ice hockey. I've met so many managers, so many job seekers from ice hockey. Right? Again, building community is so important because what happens is when you build community, your community starts to help each other out. And when it comes to the job search, and again, daily.dev, based off of all of the comments, all of the chats here, has built an amazing community, right? And so what I will tell you this, either go be a part of a community, go be a part of a Discord, go be a part of a Slack channel, right? My team has got a Discord channel, right? Go be a part of communities, be engaged, comment, network, try to have conversations offline, build community, or start your own, because it's so important to the trajectory of your career. Because most of the time you cannot do your career alone. You just can't, right? My brother is not on social media at all, right? He's not a fan of it, right? But you know what my brother has? My brother has a pretty good community. And my brother's been able to find every single job in tech because of his community, right? So even if you're not a social media person, right, like me and Francesco, right, go build community off social media, right? Go find some friends that have your similar interests and break bread together, and then you'll be amazed what happens for your career. All right, moving on. We got 8 minutes left here. How to navigate the interview process. Listen, recruiters can help you with this tremendously, right? I will tell you this. I have a website, vaco.com, vaco.com/Taylor. I have a bunch of interview questions that you can use in an interview process. But the biggest way to navigate the interview process is to lean on a recruiter. Now, if you're saying, hey, Taylor, I'm not working with a recruiter, you're going to work with a recruiter in one way or the other. Remember, there's 2 types of recruiters. There's agency recruiters and there's corporate recruiters. If you're not working with an agency recruiter, you most likely will work with HR/a corporate recruiter. Lean on that corporate recruiter. Hey, corporate recruiter, what's the steps? Hey, I'm interviewing with Clark. I'm interviewing with Clark, Mr. Manager. Right? Can you give me some info about Clark, Mr. Manager, right? Go on Clark, Mr. Manager's LinkedIn profile, right? Do the work, do the prep. The biggest thing that I see time and time again, people are not intentional in their job search, right? They show up to an interview with zero research on the person, on the company. They haven't prepped any questions. They haven't read the job description. They haven't reached out to people who used to work there, right? They've done nothing. They go through the interview process haphazardly. They take the job and then are upset and wonder why they want to leave in 6 months, right? So again, when you navigate the interview process, ask questions, lean on people, do your research, because if you do not, you will take a job that you will not be at long term. All right, moving on here. How to follow up after an interview. These are great. Listen, I said these are great. I'm the one that created these topics. So how to follow up after an interview. Listen, I would send a thank you note via LinkedIn, right? So let's talk about that for a second. You listen, if you want to send a handwritten thank you note, great, but I think that's just a thing of the past. For me, in my perspective, if I get a message from a person on LinkedIn, that means a ton to me. And here's a little hack. I would connect with every single hiring manager that you interviewed with that day. At the end of the day, send them a customized note in the invite. Always send a customized note in the invite, because if you don't do that, your invite just kind of goes away, right? So send a customized note in the invite. Say, hey, thank you again so much for the interview today. Let's stay in touch. Because here's what happens. That manager is going to log into LinkedIn the next day. They're going to open up LinkedIn. They're going to go to their invites. They're going to accept your invite. Then what happens is your message pops up immediately into their inbox, like very top. Right. And the way LinkedIn has it is that individual has to go into the LinkedIn inbox, click it, like click the link, click the message to unhighlight it. And so if you do that consistently, you're going to be at the top of everybody's mind. Again, if you haven't seen, if you haven't seen a trend here, it's top of mind: content, marketing, right? Connection, etc., etc. So just a thought there. All right, let's move on here. How to negotiate an offer. Listen, right? Negotiate an offer. Again, I could talk about this for the next 6 hours, right? Negotiate an offer. At the end of the day, you don't have to accept immediately. Ask a lot of questions. Don't say anything, right? Don't say anything when the offer is made, right? The biggest thing that people do is say, hey, Taylor, the offer is going to be at 150K plus blah, 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 blah. A lot of people go, man, that sounds great. What about this? What about that? I'm not really interested in 150. How about this much? Blah, 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 blah. And then all of a sudden, they've like dug themselves in a hole. Take the offer, review it with family, friends, partner, whoever, come up with questions, and go back the next day. Be methodical, be intentional, but don't say anything on the call, right? Keep your mouth shut, because a good sales tactic is the person who says the least usually wins in negotiation, right? The person who says the least usually wins. It's completely counterintuitive to what America or society teaches us. All right, cool. That was a lot. Questions here. Go ahead and ask any questions as we wrap up here. Again, so a few other thoughts that I want to get across, right? Forget Bitcoin, forget Ethereum, forget Dogecoin, whatever. At the end of the day, your social currency, your network is your social currency, It just is, right? How many people you know is going to be the thing that elevates you throughout your career. I will also tell you this. Listen, when it comes to networking, be fearless, right? Just send a DM. Listen, you have to understand something here, right? LinkedIn is a major slept on platform, right? When it comes to LinkedIn, it is the one platform out there where you can find, search, locate, DM, and potentially start a conversation with a hiring manager or another developer at a company you've always wanted to work for, right? One of my friends, I will end on this story here when it comes to networking, right? So I'll end here, and then the next guest, which I believe is Josefine, will come on. So I have a friend of mine, developer. He got a job at Evernote. Most of y'all who know Evernote is. Evernote, he was at Evernote, but his dream job was always Netflix, right? So what he did is he started to message hiring managers on LinkedIn at Netflix, right? So he message, call, he had some calls, 5-10 minute calls. Great. Well, he finally messaged one manager. They really hit it off. 10 interviews later, because obviously Netflix, he got a job at Netflix, right? And all he was doing was sending a few DMs a day. He had a job, right? All he was doing is sending just 1 or 2, 3, 4, 5 DMs a day to network. And then what happens? He ends up in Netflix. Listen, it's not hard. The issue is that it's a completely backwards approach to what society teaches us. And that's why none of us do it. All right. There are 3 questions here. I want to hit these questions real fast, if that's okay.
Can you hear me? Yes. Can you hear me, Taylor?
Yeah. So
okay, perfect. Let's go. Let's go with the questions. Maybe let's start with.
Yeah, how did best find recruiters? Listen, I went over this earlier in this talk, so I don't want to go on this. It's LinkedIn. It's type in the word technical recruiter in your area with the search filters and start DMing. It's a lot of work, but it helps, I promise. And we can go to the next question. What to do if recruiters, some of them ignore you? Listen, I'm going to tell you this. Most recruiters will ignore you. Keep messaging more recruiters, right? There's an infinite amount of recruiters out there. Just keep messaging them. I promise the ones that care will get back to you.
Nice. Thank you, Taylor. I don't know if do we have some more.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. For me, I've never placed a developer specifically with like a specific JavaScript like library framework, right? It's always like, do you understand the fundamentals of SQL? Do you understand the fundamentals of JavaScript? Like, just get your fundamentals down. Be able to talk about your projects and why you did that. Communication is really big for junior devs. You don't need a specific framework or library to get a job.
Nice. Thank you so much, Taylor. I was that close to just interrupt you and say like, well said, like during the talk. And really, I don't know why we didn't have any coffee chat so far, but we will fix this in 2023
yes.
for sure. And maybe we have just last one super fast by Toby Loba. Does your networking matter if it isn't on LinkedIn?
Oh yeah. I mean, listen, you can network on any platform. I mean, Instagram, TikTok, whatever. I mean, it doesn't, I just think LinkedIn is probably the easiest platform to get started on. But again, if you go to Guidance Counselor 2.0, which is my podcast, I have actually specific episodes on how to navigate each platform.
Nice. And just check the links in the description, Taylor. And if you want to just send me those links, so we share it.
Cool.
Okay, perfect. Okay, thank you, Taylor. Thank you so much. Really enjoyed this. It has been a great gift. And yes, thank you also for talking about the introverts. But basically, every slide it was just a talk for talking like 2 hours. And okay, now he'll talk for 2 hours, something like that. So we will do this. Thank you so much, Taylor. Bye bye. Okay, I clicked on the wrong tab. So, hi, Josefine. Taylor has been great. Sorry, maybe it's a couple of minutes, but it was great. It was great to listen to him. So now we have Josefine Schaefer. I don't know if I pronounced it decently. And she's it was better before. So Sorry. She's a developer. She works at developer relations at Storyblock. I met many people from Storyblock recently. So
Yeah, we are
this is
everywhere.
interesting. we are expanding, and that's amazing.
Yeah.
Many friends, I think. Chuck it, maybe, I don't know.
Mhm,
And okay, I met him in person in India, for example.
Oh,
Okay.
so lucky.
Nice. And so please introduce yourself and then share your screen and then we will start. Yes.
Yeah, of course. Hi, my name is Josefine. I'm from Germany, where it's already dark outside, as you can see, and I work as a developer relations engineer, as you just said, at Storyblock. And today I'm here to talk about imposter syndrome.
Nice. And remember when I started working as a developer, I think I suffered of imposter syndrome because I went from zero to working from the European Space Agency. So from zero to that. So I didn't know that there was this such a term like imposter syndrome, but I think I suffered this for a while, and that's it. So after joining Twitter, I knew that was actually a thing, and so imposter syndrome 101. Good luck, Josephine. If you have any questions, just drop them in the chat, and we'll have a Q&A session at the end. Okay? Perfect. Bye. Good luck.
Okay.
Bye.
Awesome. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, we were chatting about this earlier because I pulled up my first slide and we had a chat about how to spell imposter correctly. So that gave me a bit of a scare. And I remember when putting this together, I Googled as well how to spell it correctly, and turns out maybe I'm not imposter enough to spell imposter correctly. So that was that was my first scare of this. Really quickly, a little bit more about me. We already said my name is Josephine. I work as a developer relations engineer at Storyblock. If you hear any weird noise in the background, that's a little cat on the picture. He's taking my flat apart. I'm also a Girl Code ambassador. Girl Code is an initiative which wants to bring more women into the tech field and make sure they're paid equally. And I'm also an accessibility advocate. And I keep saying I'm a certified imposter in air quotes, but that just means I have a lot of experience personally. I'm by no means an expert, right? So I'm not a doctor or psychologist or whatever. So any advice that I give, of course, has to be taken with a grain of salt and is only personal experience. But just as a disclaimer, so basically how it started, I got into web development from a boot camp, and I'm originally from like a communications language background. And I got my first job after the boot camp, and I was literally feeling like, okay, when is somebody going to call me? I was super nervous to lose my job. People were going to find out that I actually had no idea what I was doing and that I didn't deserve this opportunity to be there. And I felt like really, really scared. It's funny to talk about it now, but it really wasn't funny in the moment. And one day I joined a online conference. It's for women in tech. Unfortunately, I forgot the name of a woman there who gave an amazing talk about imposter syndrome. And that was the first time I ever heard this term. And it kind of blew my mind because I had never made this connection that what I was feeling, that I'm not belonging, that I'm not smart enough, that I'm like a fraud, and that this actually has a name, and it was quite common and other people felt it too. So of course, that doesn't make it completely go away. But it's already nice to know the enemy has a name and that we're not alone in this, right? And so I'm kind of hoping to do the same for you today, or for some maybe who listens to this later. We're going to have a brief look at what imposter syndrome is, if there are maybe also good sides to it. We'll explore really briefly if imposter syndrome and perfectionism is kind of the same or not. There's this really fancy effect called Dunning-Kruger effect. And we're going to have a look at some potential triggers and how to deal with it in the end, because that's the most important, right? So let's get started. If you haven't heard of imposter syndrome before, here's like a super rough definition. It's basically a psychological occurrence where you doubt your skills or your accomplishments, regardless of anything that happens around you, and you're really afraid of being exposed as a fraud. And if you're not one for these theoretical definitions, it basically just means you're really critical of yourself, you're doubting yourself, you're feeling miserable, and you feel like your skills might not be up for the task ahead of you. And very importantly, this is regardless of any skills or external validation or proof, in air quotes, right? And so this has many, many different phases. And of course, the internal conversation can be very, very different for everyone. Like it could sound something like, oh, well, but I just got lucky. Or maybe you're explaining things away and you find like something that, oh yeah, but this person helped me out so much, so I couldn't have done it without them, or without another like lucky thing that happened to you. Or maybe you're not sure how long you're going to keep a job or a title or a certification. Or maybe you're convinced that if they will find out, you're going to be taken off the team. And so that can be very scary. And this is, yeah, it feels different for everybody. But even if you didn't know the term before, with these examples in mind, I'm super curious if you have experienced imposter syndrome before. So if you now either scan the QR code or go to slido.com and enter the number, you can vote. And if it works, I'm very curious. If it works, we should be able to see the results on the screen. So let's see. Very curious. Don't see anything coming in. Oh, there we go. Nice. Let's give folks maybe another second to do this. It's working. This is nice. Okay. And I see that there was a poll in the chat as well. So we kind of had the same idea here. That's nice. And I love that some people are always confident. I'm really happy for you. This is very nice. All right. This is going to stay up and I can share the results also later. But this is really cool to see already. So 15 people voted so far and 50% said sometimes and 35, oh, it's changing all the time, but roughly 30% say yes all the time. All right. Let's continue here. I could watch this for hours. I didn't think this through. All right, we'll continue and we'll revisit this, or I'll share the results afterwards. All right, so thank you so much for sharing already. What's really, really interesting when looking at these results is that I try to find some studies or some academic papers that give like very distinct numbers, and it was super difficult because, of course, it's really difficult to measure. They're very different studies, and basically the percentages of whom or how many people in a population experience imposter syndrome, it ranges from like 9% in some studies to 82% in others, and that of course makes it super hard to say like, okay, this is what's actually happening, right? But we can agree on the fact that it's widely spread, and we've just seen in the poll that it's quite common, and it's a very common topic among developers for sure, but it's really in all industry. Everybody I talk to from other industry, like in my family or in my circle of friends, they would all say like, oh yeah, in my industry, it's like really, really, it's a massive topic, and everybody seemed convinced it's only for them, so to say. And even my mom, like she doesn't speak a word of English and she works in speech therapy for children. And she told me like, okay, I've never heard of the term, but this is exactly what all of us feel like forever. And so in academia, in politics, in the medical field, everywhere people feel imposter syndrome, right? And there's even more pressure on folks from underrepresented group, like ethnic minorities or females or non-binary folks. Of course, there's more pressure to prove themselves in general if they feel like they don't fit in, or the society makes it in a way so that happens. So imposter syndrome is even more prevalent there. And again, there's lots of very divided research. And that's also maybe because it's a taboo in some of the work environments, right? So if you feel like you can't talk about something, of course, that affects how you answer polls and everything. The first study on this that I could find was from the 1970s, and this was looking at women and imposter syndrome in females. And they found that it's more prevalent among women, especially women of color. But of course, also men are susceptible to developing that kind of mindset. So it's really difficult to pin down, but it's very widely spread. All right, now let's have a look at why this might be a problem. Well, first of all, of course, it's a personal issue, right? So it affects your self-esteem, trust in your own abilities, and people with imposter syndrome are going to put a lot of pressure on themselves, and that can potentially hold you back from achieving your goals. So maybe that means you're not taking the initiative, or maybe you don't share your progress. You maybe don't dare to speak up if you have a good idea, or maybe you're not going to reach for a promotion if you could get one, or apply for your dream job because you may be afraid that you're not up for it, right? And this is also a very stressful situation, because if you feel like a fraud and you're scared you're going to be found out all the time, that puts a lot of pressure on you and puts you like in a really stressful situation. And if you take it one step further, this amount of pressure and doubt can also correlate with anxiety and depression, or this can lead to overwork and burnout. So none of this is very pleasant, and of course it's a spectrum, but it's definitely not a nice experience. And so it's definitely a problem. I don't want to minimize it, but looking at, well, like even if it doesn't necessarily affect your career, it definitely affects your self-esteem and your mental well-being. And so that being said, right, it's not nice. I don't want to minimize it, but I want to try and rephrase it a little bit and have a look at some of the different aspects. And the first thing we're going to do is have a look at perfectionism and imposter syndrome. So, because whenever I talk to people, they're like, yeah, well, but everybody has that, right? It's perfectionism. And so perfectionism is when you have really high standards for yourself, and then they're so high that you very often fall short of meeting them, and you become very critical, and then you feel like you could have done better, right? And imposter syndrome actually means you might meet your goals that you have set before, but there's like evidence that you've done okay, but you still feel like an imposter. So no amount of evidence is going to convince you that you are good enough, right? So that's kind of the difference there. If you talk about imposter syndrome, that's something to keep in mind, the difference between perfectionism and imposter syndrome. Like if we're looking at it now from a brighter side, it means a really high level of self-reflection, right? And reflecting on your process or on your progress and your successes is not always a bad thing. It can be super helpful. So it's definitely not per se negative if you try to challenge yourself and get better. And kind of ironically, imposter syndrome will actually push you to do better in the future and help you reflect. So it's kind of a superpower, if you will, even if it's a painful one. And there is a lot of potential for growth, right? So to rephrase it a bit, if you consider the people around you so capable and so smart that you feel kind of intimidated by them, that means that you're surrounded by amazing people you can learn a lot from. And that's a really good position to be in, right? So on a side note, I teach dance on the side. And in the studio where I teach, we have different levels. And sometimes our students come up to me and they ask like whether they can proceed to the next level. And of course, there's some skills required that I would check for, but generally, I always ask them what kind of position they are most comfortable in. Would you rather be the best in your class, but not have so much potential to learn just because you already know the things that are taught? Or would you rather be among the people who might have learned some more than you and challenge yourself, right? Both is perfectly fine. It's different situations. And this can be very different for different situations in life. You don't have to apply the same method to everything, but it's something to think about, whether you rather want to challenge yourself or rather be comfortable. Just for food for thought, if you will. And it's also kind of a marker of passion, right? So if you feel imposter syndrome, you feel like you want to be better at something you're not good enough, that means you care. And caring can sometimes be painful, but it means that you're passionate about it. And if you weren't, then you wouldn't be so good at what you're doing, right? So it's a nice reminder that what you do is really important to you, and that's a really nice thing, in my opinion. All right, so I was talking to a colleague about imposter syndrome, and he told me about the Dunning-Kruger effect. And that's something that I hadn't heard of before, and it describes kind of a psychological bias. So the more you know, the more you feel like you don't know. And the less you know, the more confident you are of your own skills, right? Let me illustrate. So here we have the graph. It shows kind of the confidence level and the competence level. And the labels on this graph are really funny. So it goes from knowing nothing to being a guru. And basically, when you know very little, your confidence kind of peaks. That's what they call Mount Stupid here in this graph. I'm pretty sure this was relabeled, and that's not the original, but I thought it was really funny. And so you know very little, but you think you're actually king or queen of the world. And then once you learn a little bit more, it drops down into what they call here the valley of despair, right? And then you slowly come up again in terms of your confidence, the more competency you have. And I'm sure many of us can think of a situation where this kind of applied to themselves, right? So for me, looking back, it was definitely after I graduated from the boot camp. So I felt like after I just graduated, well, it was just a short period of time, 3 months, but we learned about front end. I have a pretty good idea of what is going on, and who wouldn't hire me, right? 3 months bootcamp grad, yay. Now, of course, I know a bit better, but at that time I was like, well, I'm doing all right, actually. And then only a few days, weeks later, I realized, but first of all, I knew nothing. And to be honest, that feeling hasn't changed much. Like, I feel like I'm barely scraping the surface of web development. And the only good thing is that now I know that many of us feel this way, and it's just a really big field, and you just can't know it all, and that's okay. So this, like, being confronted with all the things that I didn't know was really overwhelming to me. And I had no answers to many questions I was asked, and that kind of, for me, triggered imposter syndrome. So I'm very, very curious if you want to share what kind of situations trigger imposter syndrome for you. So it's kind of the same tool, only this time you don't have to select an answer, but you can actually put in whatever you want, and it's anonymous. Let's see if this works just as well. Oh, the suspense. I did this once, not the same question, but also an open-ended active poll at a conference, and people told me afterwards how terribly wrong this could have gone. So I really hope that's not the case today. Let's see, we're feeling adventurous here today. So I also did a poll on DevTio a couple of weeks ago and asked people what triggered imposter syndrome for them. And there was, for example, people brought up like real life conversation where you kind of can't Google things about programming, or the whole topic of job security, for sure, speaking in front of people. And this is something that's like very true for me. But when people say, oh, but you have been working in this field a while, you obviously know this, right? And I feel like, well, actually, I don't. So this is really uncomfortable. And that makes me feel really, really stupid, and gets the imposter syndrome going. All right, so people are saying people that disagree with me for what triggers imposter syndrome in you: when recruiters text me on LinkedIn for a job offer, looking at a job position and trying to write a resume for that position. Oh yeah, for sure. When you try to match your own skills to what they're requiring, right? Or when somebody mentions a topic in passing that I'm not familiar with. Yeah, I can 100%. The amount of notes I take on things that I have to Google later. Not getting promoted. Yeah, that's a fair one. This is super interesting. Technical interviews. Oh yeah, that's a whole box. My needs no trigger. Oh, that's very relatable. Yeah. Yeah, technical interviews are a whole different box of yeah, anxiety for sure. Accepting a challenge, job, or task. Yeah, absolutely. All right, I'm gonna continue slowly and share these afterwards, but this is super interesting. Thank you so much for sharing. And you can kind of stay close to the keyboard, if you will, because some of you identified now situations that trigger imposter syndrome for you, right? And now I want to go a little bit into what it means or how you can deal with that. So in our next poll, I would like to see how you deal with those situations when you're feeling imposter syndrome, right? So let's see. Somebody's typing. So we're going to explore a little bit. This, again, can look very different for everybody because, of course, what triggers imposter syndrome or what that looks like for you is very different. Asking for feedback from people who know me. That's a really good one, yeah. And daring to ask feedback is already super brave. Ask for feedback, so that's a really good one. That's going to come up later as well. I didn't anticipate the awkward silence while I wait for your responses, so I'm very sorry for that. Yeah, taking time off to reflect is also a really good one. Talking to your friends. Trying to remember where you were in the past is also a really good one. Thinking of challenges that you have overcome. Making jokes. Oh, humor is also a great one. Yeah, absolutely. This is so helpful. I feel like I'm gonna use some of these in the future as well. All right, let's dedicate. Well, my time is slowly running out. Sorry. Talking to your manager who helps you see things more clearly. Thinking about what has already been accomplished, also a good one. Yeah. Remember the reason you're here in this position, also very valid. Thank you so much for sharing, everybody. These are really cool. So I'm going to have to move on and get back to those later because my time is slowly running out. So you already mentioned a few things that are super helpful, and I'm going to be trying some of those. I know this is very personal, and how you deal with it differs highly from person to person, right? So some things might work for you, others don't. You try new things, you might be surprised. I'm going to share some things that I found helpful or that I encountered in my research, and I really hope these might help you too. So the first thing, this is something somebody just said in the comments, take some time off to reflect. And this is definitely something that I want to highlight here as well. So we don't always have the capacity to take like days off, but maybe you can manage to block some time. If you have a task ahead where you know this is going to give you, like, trigger your imposter syndrome, you're really scared and really nervous, if you can block some time before, block some time after to actually deal with this and address it, right? So maybe there are things that help you that you can already identify. Like for me, it's like if I know I have an important meeting or talk to give that I'm very nervous about, I will go for a walk before and I block some time afterwards because I know I'm going to be like super shaky and hyped and I'm going to like need to blow off some steam. So if you can block some time to actually deal with it, if we push negative feelings away and push through, then it will catch up with us in the end, and it's probably going to get worse over time. So try and make some room for it. Talk about it. This is also something that was mentioned in the comments. It can be super daunting at first. I absolutely understand, but it can also be very freeing. So being open about these things can already make them less scary. So it can be different for different people, right? Some people like to address it in the moment, make a joke about it, or say out loud if they're really nervous or if they feel like they don't belong somewhere. For others, that's super scary, but maybe you can talk to your friends or your family or your partner or even coworkers that you're close with. It doesn't have to be public at all. And you will be surprised how many people, even people who you might look up to, feel the same way as you do. So it's definitely worth it. This is meant literally. So I haven't tried this because I felt a bit weird doing it, but I heard people actually giving their imposter syndrome a name or making like a little drawing of it, if that's your thing, and talking to it and like having like a reasonable conversation with it. And visualizing or addressing it can also make it easier to, reflect on it, make sure it stays in its place, basically. This was also mentioned before, and this is something that helped me so much. You can collect positive feedback or take even screenshots of praise that you get or things that you've accomplished to remind yourself what people said about your work and that you actually did really well, to check the facts, right? Like, people hired you for a reason. And so are you going to question their ability, right? Check if you ever got negative feedback and see if, like in most cases, not so much. And find some cheerleaders as well, like somebody who you can talk to about your feelings and who maybe feels the same, and you can cheer each other up, give each other pep talks. There's absolutely no shame in this. And there's like a psychological concept of a thought letter, if you will. So if you think like super negatively about yourself and you say like, hey, okay, so I'm an imposter, I'm going to be found out, I'm way too stupid for this job. You can't go from there to like, okay, I'm the star of the world, right? But you can take small steps, kind of going up a little ladder, and maybe from thinking something very terrible about yourself, go like somewhere neutral or somewhere less terrible. So maybe you didn't make a mistake that day, and that's something to celebrate, and take it small steps at a time to kind of teach yourself not to think this way anymore and make some progress, right? So these are just some small tools that you can use to deal with it, and many more were mentioned in the poll before. And it's really hard to work on these thought patterns, and it takes a lot of time. So don't be too hard on yourself. And if you research imposter syndrome, for example, you will notice you are not alone. Many famous people also have imposter syndrome. It's a structural problem. It's definitely not your personal one. And it's okay to reflect on these things. And sometimes maybe you're already doing really well, and other times you might get super overwhelmed and feel like a fraud again. And then you can check in with yourself and see like, okay, so what triggers for you? What helped you? Are there things that you can do? What was different this time? How can you maybe address this in the future? And this way, step by step, you can get out of feeling like a fraud and onto like being a bit more kind to yourself. And there are some like common thought patterns that are really hard to break. So you might think like, okay, so if I just learn this one thing, then it won't affect me anymore. I'm gonna get better. Don't fall into that trap. So it's not about your skill. It's about your self-awareness and doubting yourself, right? So it's not going to go away because you know more. You're going to find more things that you don't know. So you don't want to wait until you're an expert, because then you waited too long. You want to get out there, share your work, and before you end up not sharing it at all, right? So if you waited till you are an expert, then you have definitely waited too long. And of course, there's never a presentation without a meme. And this one says, read about imposter syndrome, don't think that I'm smart enough to have it. So if you feel like an imposter, you are already in the best position to learn and grow, and you need to embrace this experience. And there's also another meme that I found, which I thought was very enlightening. It says the key to getting over imposter syndrome is to know everybody else is an imposter too, and you have to tell yourself you deserve a stake in the scam and that they're all running, right? So there's lots of spite in that one. So taking things with a grain of salt and a little bit of humor definitely also helps. And now I have a little TikTok, of course, knows, as always, the algorithm found out that I am very much an imposter, and I'm going to see if this actually shares the sound. I'm very curious. I hope you can hear it. All right. No, wait.
If I have somehow swindled, not to have imposter syndrome anymore, because honestly, like, if I have somehow swindled everybody into believing I'm like beautiful, smart, and talented, and like all of my achievements have been done through some clever scheme where I've like slipped under the radar and like bamboozled everyone into liking me somehow, like good for her.
Yeah, so I hope you can hear the audio on that, because this is kind of what it's all about, right? Find your niche, find your community to talk to, and then try to embrace the experience and take it with a bit of humor. And yeah, there's lots of fun content out there for sure. And lastly, wait.
Not to have imposter.
Oh no, what did I do? I'm sorry. See, this is gonna keep me up all night. I linked some resources here in this QR code. If you want to read more about imposter syndrome, about things that you maybe can do. And if you ever want to chat or you need a pep talk or you just want to connect, you can reach out to me on Twitter or on LinkedIn. And I'm happy to help if I can. So thank you so much for listening. That was all from my side. And yeah, I hope you could take something away.
Nice. Thank you so much, Josefine. It was a relief for me. This is exactly what I needed like 3 years ago, and when I started working. So it's been really great. I love that you interacted with the audience with just one fast question, and then I have to let you go. Let's move with this one. Tobilob is asking, what's the worst case scenario for someone with imposter syndrome?
Oh boy. I mean, that really depends on what you are insecure about, right? I know that the worst thing definitely came true for me. So I was always afraid, like being hired as somebody coming from a boot camp, people would think like I don't know enough or something. And then when I found out that the company decided not to hire any more people for out of boot camps, I was actually like devastated because that was my worst like fear coming true, right? Like I felt like I didn't do well enough or something, because I think there were other reasons, but it really depends on what your fear is, right? And I really hope it never happens for you, or that you manage to bounce back from that.
Yes, I think the worst case scenario would be like to quit your job to not get caught as a fraud. So say, okay, so I solved the problem, like I quit the job.
For sure.
I don't know. I'm trying to type in the chat your worst case scenario. Nice. Okay. Perfect. Thank you so much, Josefine. And now it's time to invite Giulia. Let me remove this. Bye. See you soon. Bye. Okay, so we are at the end of the monthly dev 2022. So it has been 12 long months, around 35, 36 speakers. And Giulia, last but not least, I'd like to give you the honor to make the last presentation for 2022. So sorry for putting some pressure on you, but I'm sure I'm sure that you'll nail it. So I feel confident. And she defines herself like an enthusiastic front-end developer, accessibility advocate since 2020. She's also part of the Eddie Hub community. I'm very friendly with Eddie. So Giulia, introduce yourself and then share your screen, and then we can start.
Yes, sure. My name is Giulia. I'm a front-end developer working at Athos. And as Francesco already said, that I'm an accessibility advocate. So I'm sharing mostly content about accessibility and also trying to help other career switchers get into tech as well.
Nice. Thank you. Can I share your screen? Because I see the two of us now. Okay. Perfect. So I love this title, hard skill, all you need to find your first job. So now you will give us all the answers, Giulia. And,
hopefully.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, and see you soon. Bye. Good luck. Bye.
So, yeah, Today I want to give a presentation about how you get a job as a developer with soft skills when technical skills, in particular programming skills, are weak. As a soon-to-be junior developer, we tend to focus solely on our programming skills because we believe that's what recruiters are looking for, strong programming skills. And even though good programming skills are indeed an advantage when applying for a job, you can still score points with good soft skills, and you should not ignore them. Because what I've heard over and over again when I was looking for a job was that technical skills can be learned much easier and soft skills tend not to be. So how is today's talk structured? I will give a short introduction about myself, followed by talking about different skills and two main possibilities to combine hard skills and soft skills to make them stand out. So who am I? My name is Ciulla, and I'm a self-taught front-end developer who switched careers into tech in my 30s after studying Japanese and musicology while working part-time at a casino. I find this topic in particularly important because soft skills with a combination of some technical skills were the reasons I've got a job in the first place. Based on my previous experiences, like how I was at school or how I was at university, I soon realized that I would never make it into tech if I focused solely on programming skills, at least not within a year and a half. So instead of focusing only on programming skills that I knew I couldn't acquire in such a short time, I focused more on soft skills, mixed with some other technical skills to show what value I could bring to the company. And that has paid off. What are these skills that I'm talking about here? Let's go through some different types of skills so that you can get an idea. A hard skill for a developer would be, for example, the ability to program software, obviously, so different kind of programming languages. While as a soft skill, on the other hand, it's the ability to get along with your teammates and how you interact with people and also how you manage your time. And a good combination of these skills can help you get a job even if you're not that good at programming itself. Most likely, you already have some of these skills, but you are not aware of them or you are not able to communicate them in a way that others will recognize them as well. It's much easier to show off programming skills by demonstrating your code and going through your code or answering questions about programming concepts in an interview than to prove your soft skills. So the best way to demonstrate the soft skills, in my opinion, is to use GitHub to its full extent. GitHub already offers a lot of possibilities to get different hard skills I mentioned, like Scrum and project management, Git version control, and at the same time, it offers a quite easy way to combine them with soft skills like time management and problem-solving skills or communication skills. All of these terms will already catch the recruiter's attention by reading through your resume. My advice to anyone who is aware of their lack of programming skills is to focus on other technical skills that are much easier to learn. Of course, you don't need to focus on GitHub if you're already using GitLab or another software. I'm sure that all my tips can be implemented with other softwares as well. Now let's talk about a good combination of soft skills and technical skills and how you can use them to be convincing in the job interview. The good thing is that no matter what project you are presenting, whether it is a simple one or it has complex code in it, the soft skills and the other technical skills around them stay mostly the same. How you handle the time management, how you set up the project, how you were managing the project from the beginning to the end, how you communicated with your team. This gives you the opportunity to talk a lot about soft skills during the interview and show how you approached certain things and how you handle different situations. So the first combination I want to talk about is project management combined with time management skills, problem solving, and critical thinking. If you use GitHub to its fullest, you can dive pretty deep into project management. even if you won't be using project management skills yourself as a developer, you will most likely be exposed to it. So it's beneficial to learn about it before you even start your first job. Create a project for all your repositories in the project area. You can add different views like Kanban or a table view. The Kanban view is probably the best known, as it is like a simple to-do list, like you have your open to-dos, the to-dos you're currently working on, and the finished ones. And now add some soft skills like programming, solving, and critical thinking to your project you set up. You can do this best by creating issues. Think about when creating issues, or try to create issues in a chronological order. Think about what it's need to be built first to achieve a certain functionality for your project, and which functionality is depending on another. And how do you categorize them? Is it necessary for the app to work? So you could categorize them as a function or as a feature. Is it a nice to have? Then maybe categorize it as an enhancement. GitHub already provides a lot of predefined labels you can use, but you can also create your own ones. And as the project is getting bigger, it's natural for the issues to it's natural that bugs occur, or do you change your mind about particular decisions you made at the beginning. So there will be more labels you can create, like bugs and defects, and accordingly categorize them. And in addition, you should use some kind of framework, or like agile methodologies like the Scrum framework, to measure your progress. This would help you measure the progress over time and to see an outcome, like set your concrete goals. This would be called the sprint planning, like how many issues from your predefined issues, which would be called the backlog, do you want to have finished in, let's say, 2 weeks? So the 2 weeks would be a sprint. And after completing this sprint, you would have to do a sort of sprint review, like thinking about, it's like a recap to evaluate what you accomplished. And if you didn't get it all done, what were the reasons you kept you from completing the sprint to improve the planning for the next 2 weeks? GitHub has also a feature for this planning system called milestones. And these are also already many terms you can use for the interview process. It makes time estimation even more precise. So it would be also good that each issue should have its own time estimation. So not just say that you want to do 4 issues for 2 weeks, but how long do you think will take you for one issue? And there are different ways to do so, and companies handle it different. Like you could say it's an easy issue, a medium, a hard one, which would mean easy is 1 day and hard would be a week. Or you can give it a number where 5 points mean 3 days and 20 points mean 2 weeks. It's entirely up to you, but be able to explain your thoughts on it. I was really, really bad at estimating time for my issues back then. If I said I need half a day for this issue, it often took me 2 or 3 days. And if this is also the case for you, don't worry. You will get better over time. Thinking before you estimate the time that there may be obstacles occur, like no internet connection, or you have to depend on other colleagues, and also become aware of your own pace. And it will come naturally. Later, you can use this newfound knowledge when asked about your weaknesses in a job interview. So you can say, one of my weaknesses was that I lacked time management. But I found a solution for myself to get better over time, and it's no longer a weakness anymore. This also shows awareness of capabilities and accountability. Also 2 other important soft skills. Good time management helps you meet deadlines, which is important, especially for recruiters and clients who care about functionality and meeting deadlines. So by just setting up a project at GitHub and creating issues, we already covered many skills that you can talk about during the interview process. And the good thing is that you don't need a team to set up a project this way. I did the entire project setup for all my 3 projects that I added to my portfolio at that time. It was important to me to learn these concepts and to get a good understanding of what's going on. And I wanted to improve myself, and it helped me improve my time management. And now I can talk about it confidently because I am quite good of it now. And the second combination I want to talk about is Git version control, combined with communication skills, interpersonal skills, and writing skills. Working in a small team or contributing to open source is indeed an advantage to develop strong communication and interpersonal skills. But even if it's not possible for you to work in a team, you can still benefit a lot by creating a Git workflow for your projects that you will also find when you're working at a company and that you can talk about in an interview. What's a Git workflow? It means that you don't just work on the main branch of your project, sometimes also called a master branch, but you set up different steps in your project to ensure quality and protection of the code. In my example, I would create a developer branch where all the issues are created from, so a branch for each issue, and will then be merged into the developer branch where the code gets tested for the first time if it works all together or if the code broke. And when everything is working, you can then merge it into the branch. So see the developer branch as an intermediate step for testing. Because the main branch is often the one you are using as a starting point to deployment so that users can view your website with a real URL when you are hosting it, for example, on Netlify or GitHub Pages. So this way, you'll learn a lot about Git, how Git works and how Git works under the hood. And you learn a few more Git commands, or actually a lot more Git commands than you would have used otherwise. This will give you more confidence talking about Git and working with Git. If you are only working on your main branch, then you will only use simple commands like git push and git pull and git status. But when working with a whole Git workflow that has several different branches with their own responsibilities, that would mean additional commands like git merge and git apply and git checkout, git rebase, git stash, git cherry pick, and much more. Git version control seems huge at first, and most developers are afraid of it. I was too back then. But you will get used to it once you start using these commands on a regular basis. So don't wait until your first job. Get familiar with this way of working and take the chance to get to know Git better in advance to be able to present it as a skill during the interview. When it comes to communication skills, these can be shown on your repository or on each repository of your project with a detailed README, a strong pull request, or even a small documentation in the wiki area. Write a README file so that anyone who is visiting your repository knows what the project is about. Give instruction on how to use your code, how to pull it down, how to set up a local environment. This also shows the recruiter how your writing skills as you present your project. And to show off that you are detail-oriented, include a thumbnail. List details, which GitHub is providing on the right side of each repository. Give a little description in the About section, which would be shown when someone is searching for a project in the database. Also, add the keywords GitHub is providing and add a link to the live view of the project, because recruiters most likely do not want to pull your code to see what the app is looking like. So provide a hosted live view of your project. And you can even write about specific approaches and choices for your project in your README file to give the user a little background, how to approach the work, or write about it in the project's wiki and link to it. Also, write a very detailed pull request so the reviewer understands what's going on. As you can see in my example, this is a pull request I created for the Hacktoberfest this year. I first mentioned the problem, what was the problem of the issue, and shared a screenshot with the failing component. I also shared which issue it will be fixed when it gets merged. And then I provided a screenshot of how it's looking now, and also the steps or the changes I made in the code. And the reviewer was happy about it and mentioned it was very detailed. I hope it was in a good way, but I think so. So yeah, let's help the reviewer understand what you did and what you approached. And if you are the one who reviews a pull request, give constructive feedback and tips in a polite way on how the code could be improved. Don't just say, no, I don't like the colors, but make suggestions like, I don't think that blue goes well with this kind of green, but maybe a lighter color like yellow would go better. Creating a PR may seem a little strange when you are working alone on a project, but it gets you used to how this all works and how to set up a pull request, how your writing skills. So I would do it for all your repositories, even if you are working on it alone. And if you are able to find a small team to work together on a project, all the better. This way you can show the recruiter that you are capable of working with others and think together as a group. You can also do additional Scrum events like retrospectives or dailies. This way you'll get even a better idea of how the working weeks are structured in a company and what happens during these events firsthand and not just in theory. This will give you real life experience, which is indeed beneficial as you can talk about it in much more confident. Working in a team or contributing to open source would also show that you are able to work remotely and asynchronously with your future team. And strong communications will be even more important. Communication skills will be even more important. It also shows that you are able to communicate with people from different backgrounds and different cultures. Yeah, good written communication is key. It's a crucial soft skill for developers. As it means that you have the ability to express your thoughts concisely. And in many cases, the job will require developers to interact using written communication. And again, many different skills were covered by a simple combination of Git version control and the workflow with soft skills. This provides, again, a lot to talk about during an interview. But GitHub provides a lot of other great features you could focus on, like security or automation with GitHub Actions. You might find a niche you want to focus on more, like accessibility, SEO, or performance. With the Google Chrome Lighthouse extension, I think you can easily get into one of these niches. Also, write about these things in the project's README or wiki. Write about what you learned when creating the project, important concepts. Share your design processes. This will strengthen your writing skills. As you can see, there are so many other things you can focus on when you are not that good at writing code. So soft skills is what landed me my first job. These skills are still the strong ones, even after a year in my current job. And that's totally fine. In the end, we're working together as a team, so everyone has their strengths and weaknesses, but together as a team, it just works. Be proud of what you know and what you're good at, and focus on these skills. And don't focus on code alone, because most of the time in a job, you will be Googling for a solution anyway, or you talk about concepts and possibilities with other developers. Focus more on the how you solve the problem, on the mindset, on the development process, like how is this planning going, the development itself, and the finishing of the process. And focus on business and social skills. It is, in my opinion, much more difficult to acquire soft skills than hard skills. And who knows, maybe as we progress towards the future of work that will be driven by AI, soft skills will become even more critical. Abilities such as empathy or critical thinking and communication skills are likely to persist over time and become more desired than good old hard skills. Be aware of your skills and talk openly and honestly about it, about your strengths, about your weaknesses, what you know and what you don't know, and how you would handle a situation if you were unfamiliar with the subject. This will also help the recruiter get an idea of who you are and how you would fit into the team. There are a variety of positions on a development team, so there will be a place for you too. Thanks for listening. Thanks for having me, Francesco.
Thank you so much, Julia. I really loved this one. First comment, I loved the last comment on the AI. So it's like, because the AI maybe it will take the boring part, or let's say the more technical part, but it's really hard to replace a human. I mean, at least for the next
Sure.
100 years, and then it will not be our problem, probably. At least not mine. So, and we have a fast Q&A session. By the way, shout out to Toby Loba, who is going great in making questions in the chat. So huge shout out to Toby Loba. He's also posting on social media. So well done, Toby Loba. You just want some swag. And he made a question, which is, one thing I struggle with is being able to accurately to estimate the time. I think it was related when he was talking about the time management. The time I can use to get something done. So time management to get something done. How do you think you can fix this? Because I saw him very active on different say fronts, but try something about time management.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to estimating time, I would say try it out and progress over time. So as I said, at first, in the beginning, I thought that I was just to create a header, for example, it will take me half a day, and it took me 2 or 3 days. And I was very kind of depressed because I thought, why? How could a header take so long time? But yeah, I think you do not you don't think about certain things like internet connection or depending on others. And I think, and now when I estimate my time, I always add a few hours, or at least a half a day for, when I think it's half a day, I already add 1.5 days to do it. I think you should really write it down, what you are thinking, how long it will take, and then recap, what was the reason which took you so long? Like maybe it was a bug or something wasn't working in that moment. So
nice. Thank you, Julian. And I think that having many things to do is not a bad thing. Like we are all like busy mind. For me, having things to do is never a problem to find something to do. The problem is the opposite. So it's you have to deal with it at some point, especially if you are in development field, when you have to stay up to date. You still want to learn 10 more languages, 10 more frameworks. You're never done. So I think this is especially on development. It's even more true that other fields. It will just learn your job. You can even maybe don't let's say evolve. In development, it's let's say a must, or almost a must. Yes, to be I'll let you know soon. And yes, I also made a poll on like are soft skills important as a developer. It was a bit a devil's advocate question, but I wanted to see the poll. It was we had a 94% yes, so I'm happy with the result. And yes, so thank you, Julia. I really enjoyed this presentation. It has been the last of 2022. So now let me invite again Josefine. Perfect. So we are about to close daily.dev in 2022. I started being a host here in January 2022. I'm still here at the end of 2022, so I'm happy. I made 12 episodes, so also I'm happy, and I really wanted to close this year not talking about a framework, nothing against framework, but talking more about like the people. The developers are people that are doing important things, that communication is very, very important. So thank you so much. If you want to drop also a fast question, you still can. So thank you, Julia. Thank you, Josefine. Do you have some final thoughts before we wrap up this 2022? Any of you would like to say something?
Oh, well, thank you so much for having us. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Happy holidays if you're celebrating. And I hope you can wrap up this year in some peace and quiet and get some rest, as we all deserve, I feel like, and start full speed in 2023.
That's true.
Yes, absolutely. I just want to say something that there is a great initiative that didn't start from daily.dev, but basically this is related to what we are talking today, which was about like soft skills, communication between people. So someone, I think Desseyn, started making a challenge on social media on like 100 days of reading an article using daily.dev. So basically every day you were like sharing an article that you were using, that you read, and then you shared this on social media. And people started to take this as a trend. So now we're making a space of people who completed this. And this is related to like how communicating effectively can really help you, even to find a job, to stay accountable, to interact with other people with similar interests. So I also want to say that we are about to do this on the 3rd of January, so 2022. I said that 2023, I said that this was the last event of the year. I see Shubangi is in the audience, so shout out to Shubangi, who is here and also here. And yes, so Merry Christmas if you're celebrating. Enjoy the time off. Really, thank you so much for being here as a speaker. And yeah, thank you. We are about to close, and really enjoyed this series. This is a series that we do for free on daily.dev. So thank you for your support. We crossed 100 likes. We got many people, thousands of people watching this series. It's totally free, 100%. There is no strange paywall behind this. So it's something that we are doing just for developers, because we like this. This could not be possible without the speakers coming here and sharing their amazing knowledge. We've also I'll also give you a small preview of what will happen in the next year. So we are about to take some parts of these presentations and turn them into short videos, posts. So probably will appear soon at some point, because we are starting to use some of the content, because I think that it's really valuable. What you shared, it has been really valuable, and I really love the all 3 presentations. Of course, also the Taylor one. We are done. So we're done for this year. See you in 2023, and
you.
Bye everyone. Thank you so much. Thank
you.
I love this this for loop of thank you. We should do this. And Graham, thank you. So many people, thank you. I think that I missed some people saying like thank you, both for Julia and Josephine, but there were many. So as well, there were many. I'll check some of them, but that's it. Perfect. Bye everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Enjoy. Bye. Okay.